Hello everyone, Nyonstar here, and when I was 6, I started first grade. I don't remember a lot of my childhood, so I'm sorry if this ends up running short. So after realizing the hell I was in for after kindergarten, it was time for my next evolution. There are only a couple things I remember before the inciting incident. My first grade teacher was both fun and way too competitive. There was this project we were asked to do where we had to draw ourselves 100 years in the future, and me, being the depressive little idiot I was, I drew my grave. This pissed my teacher off. She had a meeting with my dad, and he defended me by saying, well, she can be stubborn sometimes. My teacher responded with, well, so am I. I don't really know what to say to convey my confusion. This grown woman was trying to compete with a 6-year-old girl. The funniest part is that she ended up losing later on. I was sent to the principal's office a ton this semester. I don't even remember most of the times I went. Once was when I was given one of those color by the number worksheets. I didn't do it though because I was confused. It had things like color 2 with blue, color 3 with yellow. But the balloons had equations like 5 plus 7 or 9 plus 2, so I didn't know what to do. The teacher got mad at me and sent me to the principal's office to do it. So I reasoned out that I had to mix the colors. 2 plus 3 would be blue and yellow together, so I'd color the balloon green. Turns out this was wrong because the principal screamed in my face for being a smartass. I wasn't doing it out of spite, I was actually trying. And the lesson here is never try. The only other time I remember going to the principal's office was when I was tripped. A kid stuck their foot out and I fell to the floor. It was right then that the principal just so happened to walk in. She yelled at me for horsing around, and I was sent to her office again. So every time I did something wrong, or I didn't understand an assignment, I was sent away. One day, while I was staring at the wall in her office, the principal came up to me and told me I was being transferred to another class. My teacher had given up trying to out-stubborn me. This other girl and I were going to be switched. I'd like to go on a slight tangent about the girl I was switched with. We'll call her Heather. I met her at recess. She'll actually show up consistently in future stories. I'm hesitant to say that we were friends. It was more of a I know you and will talk to you sometimes kind of relationship. Anyway, let's talk about the teacher whose class I was switched into. Let's call her Miss B. Not only was that her actual initial, but it also stands for bitch. She was in the class directly across from ours. She was also my older sister's first grade teacher, so my parents were very familiar with her. And when they were told which teacher I was switched with, there was mass groaning. Miss B was a mean old lady. She would assign too much homework for 6-year-olds and would publicly mock you. I remember her making fun of me for anything. Sit in the wrong chair, say the wrong answer, be generally neurodivergent. Well, then she's gonna call you stupid and get the whole class to point and laugh. Sometimes her class would get so bad, I'd hide under my desk and cry. This would only cause her to up the ante. But I'm sure this won't scar me for the rest of my life. I don't blame any of my classmates though, since we were 6 and they were being pressured by an adult. I was sleeping terribly during this whole year. We didn't have nap time anymore, so I was tired all the time. I have a very fractured memory from my original class, where I was sleeping so long that I had to be sent to the nurse's office just to sleep. In Miss B's class, I would end up hiding behind a bookcase to sleep. This caused more bullying from her, but damn was I too tired to care. Sleeping issues and bullying? I wonder why I barely remember this year. Let's talk about some of my classmates. There was this Navajo girl in my class who was born on February 29th. She's the reason we learned about leap years. Fun fact, I was expected to be born on the leap year, but I was born on March 4th instead. She ended up being in every class I had in that school from this point forward. There was Jasmine, who was a quiet girl with glasses. Next was Eric. Eric was definitely odd. He was obsessed with engineering and destroying things. I also had a crush on him. Maybe. I mean, I called it a crush, but I'm not sure if I was actually attracted to him or I was just acting like I was. There was also Mason and Jason. They were the 2 gifted kids in my class. Well, I was also gifted, but I didn't get tested till 4th grade, so... Mason was this blonde boy who was incredibly smart. When we had to give each other our essays to grade, he would grade them so harshly that anyone he graded complained to the teacher. He would also cry a lot. My dad still knows him as the boy who cried at the beginning of class every day. He was also a twin, but I didn't meet his brother until high school. Jason was the Asian kid, which is relevant for 2nd grade, and was also incredibly smart. Miss B favored them heavily. They would get called on for all the questions and were drowning in stickers. I was very jealous. In fact, I was one of the only kids to never get stickers. I maybe got 1 or 2 the entire year. As an act of rebellion, I'd steal the entire sticker sheets when no one was looking. This was the start of my thieving arc. I'll go into more detail about it when we get to the 2nd grade. But yeah, I was the black sheep of the class. You could pin a murder on me and I'd get in trouble with no hesitation. I can't remember if anyone else in the class was as targeted as much as I was. Maybe she was treating me this way because I was so much trouble that I had to be transferred. But I feel like once you met me, you'd see that I was more of a Lisa than a Bart. Even if I was a Hellraiser, I feel like getting an entire class to ostracize me wasn't going to help me. When I was first shoved into her class, my dad straight up told me he didn't like her. I ended up telling her this because I was stupid, and this didn't help at all. My dad hated her because, as it turns out, she did the same thing to my sister when she was in her class. Miss B would even call me by my sister's name all the time. Which happened with a lot of the staff, because that kinda just happens when you have an older sibling. She's 7 years older than me, by the way, so we weren't in the same school at the same time. Still, it's pretty telling that she treated me so terribly and called me by my sister's name. At this point, I would normally go into my specials and talk about anecdotes, but my main class was such torture I don't remember anything. I know we had music instead of art this year, but I don't remember anything about it. I know we didn't have reading buddies this year either. You can watch my kindergarten video if you'd like to see more about my extra classes. I also don't remember anything about recess. I just remembered something I forgot to mention. My best friend from kindergarten, Hope, had left to a different school at the end of the last school year. Ian wasn't in either of the classes I was in, and I can't remember if Robert was in any of my classes. But I was already under duress, so I guess it doesn't really matter. So all my previous friends were gone, and given the climate of our classroom, I didn't really make any friends. Eric and I were pretty friendly, but it was weird since I thought I liked him. Mason and Jason were kind of stuck up since Miss B was stroking their egos, and everyone else was either mean or just kinda ignored me. And that's a wrap for 1st grade. I wouldn't want to go through this year again. When we broke for summer, I was so happy to get away from Miss B. But unfortunately, fate had different plans for me. So be sure to tune in next time to see more of my eternal torment. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe, blah blah blah, you know the drill. Bye! Hey, post-editing Mel here. Though, usually when I say post-editing, I'm talking about the audio editing and not, like, the final editing, so... Anyway, I'm recording this, like, once I'm already done with all the assets, because I forgot to record an outro. And it's been a week and I'm already done, because I've just been throwing myself into work. Regarding the last outro video, I mentioned, like, which do you prefer thing. But, like, it's gonna be February by the time that releases, and it's gonna be February by the time this releases, and it's, like, December. So there's, like, a 2.5 month gap. Also, I'm currently living in a hotel room. You know, but yeah, that sucks. Though, by the time this uploads, I'll probably be in a better situation, hopefully. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've gotta stop recording this. My sister's coming to visit for Christmas. Bye for real, though.